Outer Banks Season 4 has now ended, and it ended on a massive cliffhanger. We had the death of JJ, who was killed by his own father, Groff, who then ended up running away to Lithuania with the Blue Crown, which of course leads to where Blackbeard's treasure lies. We've now had the confirmation of Season 5, and it is unfortunately going to be the last season of Outer Banks, and so today we're going to discuss what will happen in the final season of Outer Banks. Let's start with the obvious. This season will see all of the Pogues grieve JJ's death and try and get revenge for him. And I think Drbi will be the centre of this. Season 4 had Drbi sort of take a little bit of a back seat. He didn't feel like the lead character. Instead, they made JJ the lead character. And all of the big plot points that happened, including the mystery plot twist of Groff being JJ's father, was all centered around JJ. We saw him, of course, be arrested. We saw him get really violent throughout the season. A lot of it all centered around JJ. And the reason for that was it was foreshadowing the fact that he is going to die at the end of this season. And so I think in Season 5, we will return back to Drbi being the lead character and dealing with the grief of JJ dying. And it'll be interesting to see how this grief affects Drbi, because we've already seen him struggle a bit with dealing with violence in this season. For example, when he didn't shoot the villains at the end of part 1, and he was beginning to worry that he might start turning into his dad, being very violent. And so with JJ, his best mate, now being dead, will he then sort of turn into the violent man that his father was? And when he inevitably does come face to face with Groff, I reckon there might be a moment where we see him having to decide whether to kill Groff to get revenge on JJ, or try and do the noble thing and not kill Groff, and see where that struggle happens, especially considering he has to think that he is about to be a father as well. And speaking of which, for Sarah, I think this entire season will wrap up her family as she gets ready to have her own child. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this show ended with Sarah giving birth and then her and Drbi leaving Outer Banks to go and raise up their child in a safer place. Throughout this season, we've seen Sarah struggle with the fact that she's been apart from her family and hasn't had any contact with them whatsoever. And then in the last few episodes, we've seen her begin to start to connect more with her brother Wraith, and we see them finally beginning to bond after Sarah ended up saving him in Morocco when he was about to be killed by the villains. And so I reckon this season will finally see Sarah and Wraith come together as brother and sister, and I think it will see Wraith's arc come to an end where he finally accepts the Pogues for who they are and isn't an enemy with them. Will he necessarily become best mates with them? Probably not, but I think it would be a really nice arc if that was the case. And so I reckon at the end of this season, as Sarah begins to get ready to have her own child, she will end up reuniting with her younger sister, and it might end with her, Wraith, and her younger sister finally coming together as a family ready to start the new generation rather than hanging on to the past. For Kiara and Cleo, I think they will both be stuck for revenge in this season, and the want to get the treasure in order to enact that revenge. Cleo already is still seeking for the revenge of her friend's death and needs to find the treasure in order to get that revenge. And since she's just been shot in the last episode, I think there will be even more determination for her to want to succeed in this task. And of course, Kiara was dating JJ, and now JJ is dead. And so I think this entire season is going to see her grieve very heavily, and we may even see Kiara get the most violent she has ever been, which I think will be really exciting. And I think her finding the treasure might finally be a way to deal with the fact that JJ is now gone. And then Pope is still technically a criminal, so I think this season will look at him grieve JJ, of course, but also try and find the treasure so that he can clear his name. And I do think it will finally end with him going off to college to study what he wants to study, because they've been building that up ever since episode 1 of season 1. And so I think when the show ends, they'll finally let him have his dream of going off to college. Since it will be the final season, I do reckon they will find Blackbeard's treasure, or whatever the treasure ends up being, and stop Groff. But in doing so, something will happen that leads the Pogues to maybe permanently separate from each other. Maybe once they have found the treasure, they end up permanently creating Pogelandia, and the Pogues go off and live together, but have to leave Outer Banks in order to do so. Or maybe the series just comes to a natural end where they've found the treasure, and because of the stages where they are at life, such as Drbi and Sarah having their child, and Pope going off to college, and Kiara probably doing something else, that inevitably they do just have to split off once they found the treasure, or maybe in finding the treasure it means that they can't return to Outer Banks because of it, and so they do have to leave, and that's the reason why the show ends. Either way, I can't wait for season 5. I absolutely loved season 4 and I can't wait to see how this show ends. This season could end up coming out any time really from now. It could come out as early as 2025, but could come out as late as 2026, maybe even 2027, judging by how past seasons of the show have came out. But guys, what do you guys think about this? What do you reckon will happen in season 5 of Outer Banks? How do you think the show will end? How do you think the characters will deal with that cliffhanger ending of JJ dying at the end of season 4? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments, and as always, we've been here on Gated Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.